Welcome to the short explainer on ancient justice and urban planning. Today, we're looking at an ancient text that tackled two massive social challenges: accidental manslaughter and housing an entire tribe of people who legally owned absolutely no land. It's honestly a brilliant look at early urban planning and ancient justice.
Okay, let's dive into this by looking at a major problem in the ancient world: the blood feud. If someone accidentally caused a death, well, the standard social mechanism back then was often immediate, brutal retaliation by the victim's family. And left unchecked, this could easily escalate into an endless, violent cycle of revenge that would literally tear a community apart. They absolutely needed a system to halt that violence right in its tracks.
To really grasp the urgency here, you have to understand the threat of the Avenger of Blood. I know, it sounds like an action movie title, but this was the designated family member responsible for seeking vengeance and killing the person who slew their relative. If you caused an accidental death, this Avenger was legally and culturally permitted to hunt you down. You needed immediate geographical protection just to survive, which sets up the need for a very specific legal solution.
But sanctuary definitely wasn't for everyone. Protection was strictly reserved for the slayer that kills unawares and unwittingly and hated him not before time. This is such a crucial early distinction between premeditated murder and accidental manslaughter. The slayer must have acted completely by accident with absolutely no prior hatred or intent. Actually, scratch that. It's more than just an accident. If there was even a hint of prior malice, there was zero refuge for you.
And this brilliantly illustrates the strict, life-saving asylum process they put in place. You couldn't just casually stroll across a city line. Step 1, you had to physically outrun the Avenger to a designated city. Then, you had to formally declare your case to the elders at the gates and stand trial before the congregation. If you were cleared, you were safe. But there's a catch. You had to live inside that city until the death of the current high priest. Only then could you finally return home.
Now, to make this whole system work, accessibility was everything. They designated 6 specific cities of refuge, strategically scattered across different tribal territories on both sides of the Jordan River. That way, one was always within reach, no matter where you were. And notably, this protection was available for all the native children of Israel, as well as the strangers that lived among them. It was a remarkable example of equal protection under this ancient law.
Let's move to and see how this builds into our second challenge: housing the tribe of Levi. We're pivoting here from criminal justice straight into civil planning. The standard tribes of Israel received massive tracts of territory as their inheritance, but the tribe of Levi, who served specific religious and administrative functions, received no land at all, zero. So they had to be integrated directly into the existing territories of the other tribes.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how they solved it through a fascinating cooperative national zoning project. The other tribes effectively taxed their own land by lottery, giving up a total of 48 cities to distribute the landless Levite families evenly throughout the entire nation. So instead of isolating them in one corner of the map, they carefully wove this essential population into the daily fabric of the whole society.
And they didn't just give them buildings either. The text specifically says they gave them these cities along with their suburbs. This was a highly practical zoning requirement to ensure the Levites had space to sustain their cattle and livestock. This massive ancient distribution was entirely dictated by drawing lots, and it was deliberately designed so these public servants could economically sustain themselves even without owning large, sweeping farming territories.
So, the crucial point is that these ancient texts aren't just old, dusty stories. They are literal blueprints for early civil society. They represent deliberate structural attempts to solve deeply human problems, replacing bloody vengeance with due process and fair trials, and ensuring a landless class of public servants actually had a place to live. It really makes you wonder, how much of our modern legal protections, asylum laws, and public zoning are directly rooted in these ingenious ancient solutions. It's definitely something to think about as you navigate the modern cities we all live in today. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.